Baseball's Hall of Fame voting process continually comes under fire as time and time again, players that belong in the Hall of Fame don't get in. But this is nothing new. Countless times the writers have gotten it wrong, and yet they remain on the front lines of the Hall of Fame doorsteps. Here is a shocking list of players that had to wait longer than they should have for entry into the Hallowed Hall. First up, Yogi Berra, a 3-time MVP, 18-time All-Star, 10-time World Series champion, arguably the greatest catcher of all time. When he was elected in 1972, it was actually his second year on the ballot after falling short with just 67% the year before. Next, it's Joe DiMaggio, a 3-time MVP, 13-time All-Star, 9-time World Series champ, lost 3 years to military service, and considered one of the greatest players of all time. When he was elected in 1955, it was his third year on the ballot after finishing with 69% and 44% of the vote his first 2 seasons. Eddie Matthews is next, a 12-time All-Star, 2-time World Series champ, more than 500 home runs. Impressive on its own, but even more so when considering his best years were behind him following his age 33 season. When he was elected in 1978, it was his 5th year on the ballot. Amazing to think someone with his career debuted with just 32% of the vote. Jimmy Fox is next, a 3-time MVP, 9-time All-Star. You could have probably added 4 more, but the All-Star game didn't debut until 1933. His 1929 to 1932 seasons were certainly All-Star worthy. He's also a 2-time World Series champ, hit more than 500 home runs, and when he retired, he was 4th all-time with 1,922. When he was finally elected in 1951, it was his 7th year on the ballot. Hank Greenberg is next, a 2-time MVP, 5-time All-Star, 2-time World Series champ, and lost 4 years to military service during his prime. When he was finally elected in 1956, it was his 8th year on the ballot. An embarrassing job by the writers, but it gets worse. Duke Snider is next, 2-time World Series champ, 407 home runs, a lifetime OPS of 919. And when he played, it was Willie, Mickey, and the Duke. Yet, Snider goes down as one of the most overlooked, disrespected players in Hall of Fame voting history. He debuted with 17% of the vote, and when he was finally elected in 1980, it was his 11th year on the ballot. Embarrassing on a historic level by the writers. Now, even when a player gets in on the right ballot, there are still too many writers that disagree and don't vote for a player that is clearly a first-time ballot Hall of Famer. First up, let's look at Jackie Robinson. He was a first ballot Hall of Famer in 1962, but only with 77.5% of the vote. I think we know what was going on in 62, and this shows that at least 22.5% of the writers were, sorry, I'm just going to say it, racist. Warren Spahn is next. He made it on the first ballot in 1973, but only with 83.2% of the vote. I know wins is more of a team stat, but you still have to give him a ton of credit for racking up 363 of them, the most by a lefty all time. Apparently, nearly 20% of the writers with a vote in 1973 were just dumb. Yep, I'm just firing shots now. Mickey Mantle is next. Okay, who's the moron who wouldn't vote for Mickey? Apparently, 12% of the writers in 1974 were 1 degree on the evolutionary scale above a rock when he made it in with 88.2% of the vote. I actually think a rock would have voted for him, so I apologize to all of the rocks out there. Next, Ernie Banks, the greatest Cub of all time with more than 500 home runs, was apparently not worthy of the Hall of Fame to 16% of the writers in 1977 as he got in with 83.8% of the vote. At this point, if you weren't already, you're probably done with the writers having a say on this. Next, Willie Mays, a player who should have been unanimous. Wasn't 99% or 98 or 97%, but 94.7% in 1979. The positive news here, Apparently, the amount of racist writers voting on the Hall of Fame dropped from 22% when Jackie was voted in back in 62 to 5.3% for Willie in 1979. That's literally the only reason someone wouldn't vote for Willie, because you can argue he's the greatest player in the history of the game. He should have been unanimous. Now, be sure to like the video and subscribe if you've enjoyed this list of players that had to wait longer than they should have, along with those that got in with a vote tally much lower than it should have been. Comment below and let me know if you have any more to add to the list. We'll hope that one day we can find a better way to decide who gets in. But for now, this is what we've got. I'll add some links to my other content for you to check out here now. I appreciate you spending some time with my channel, and thank you for watching the video.